Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 374 of CryptoBiography, and it's a story, it's an entire story called Situational Awareness. And here we go. Situation unchanged. The man in the driver's seat lowered the binoculars and looked at the man in the passenger seat. How much longer before we go get some food? I'm starving. Well, since we haven't gotten a single bite on this whole stakeout, I know, that's why I'm starving. Not that kind of bite. I mean, since we haven't seen the target even once, we're kind of stuck here. Then tell you what, I got my cell phone, you got yours, I stay with the binoculars, you go get us some grub. If you're quick, the window where the target might leave will be very short. Fine, there's a Chipotle nearby. You want your usual? Of course, and get a large diet for me. No ice. Wait, a bit of ice. Fine, I'm sure the boss will reimburse it. He better. Well, actually, I don't care since you're buying. Do you ever? The man in the passenger seat got out and came around, then opened the door. Driver got out, and the other men got in and drove off. So fucking boring, the ex-driver's seat man said. He put the binoculars up to his eyes again. The house seemed quiet. They knew their man was in there somewhere, but other than some lights turning off or on occasionally, they hadn't gotten any confirmation of where he was. The man, owner of a construction company, was suspected of stealing from their client. They were being paid, and well, to find out for sure. First, they needed to get inside his house when he wasn't home. This was tricky. Though the man was a notorious asshole whom no one wanted to be around, he had a large house on a pretty good amount of land in the hills, so there were gardeners, housekeepers, and others around much of the time. Such a shame, said a voice behind him. Something cold and metal touched the back of his neck. Don't move, said the voice. How did I not hear you? The man said. Trade secret. Tell the truth, I would have just taken you out immediately, but I really don't like this job. The guy who hired me, the one you're hoping to hit, is a real asshole. But a girl's gotta eat. The metal, which wasn't a gun, instead plunged through the back of his head and into his brainstem, killing him instantly. The killer pulled the weapon out and dragged the body so it was sitting against the base of a tree. 10 minutes later, the other man came back with the Chipotle. Any word on our target? He asked as he got out, mostly looking down at the house as he came around the car to where his partner was sitting. The moment he looked over, he froze. There was no warning and no conversation this time. Cold steel slid into his brainstem, and he fell immediately to the ground. The killer pulled out a burner phone and entered a number she had memorized. Yeah, your information was right. 2 guys have been staking out your property from the hill behind your house. They're taken care of, except for body removal. You want me to take care of it? If not, based on the location they parked, could be 3 days or more before anyone locates their bodies. Okay, I got it covered. When I check my account in 24 hours, if the payment is there, we have nothing more to say. She hung up and broke the phone. Then, with real strength, lifted the second man and put him across the back seat. Then she heaved the other man up from his place of the tree and put him atop the first man. After checking to see where any blood might have gone and cleaning the Chipotle off the ground, she drove off in their car to a place that crushed cars and wouldn't ask questions. Eventually, she'd get a ride back to her car, but that was a couple of miles away, parked where no one would care if it stayed for even a month or more. Later that night, in her bed, she thought about what she wanted. She'd had a good career, and for the most part, the people she killed would not be missed. The average decency of the population had certainly ticked up based on whom she had removed from the gene pool. She didn't have a single regret over the people she'd killed, but she knew that, good though she was, and careful as she was, if she kept up forever, something would go wrong. She wasn't particularly afraid of the police. Being caught in the act by the police was basically impossible, as the police just didn't work that way. Possibly the investigators might catch up to her someday, but even that was only a remote possibility. She was careful, and her work took her all over the United States, and indeed all around the world at times. Even her MO was constantly changing, as she only used a weapon once, getting rid of it before the next job, and rarely using the same model of gun twice. No, the real risk was someone actually getting the drop on her. She could be very, very careful, and she kept herself in excellent shape, but if the wrong person showed up at the wrong time, she could be killed like anyone else. But she knew herself. She couldn't just retire. If she stopped doing this work, she would have to find something equally engaging. One of her homes was near Malibu. It was narrow but high, and though the view was equally narrow, it had a magnificent bath with giant windows that overlooked the ocean, which was close enough to hear. She lay in her bath for a good long time, refilling it several times and luxuriating in the warmth. She had the windows open so she could hear and even smell the ocean. She allowed herself to relax and wash off the adrenaline of the evening. The sun was coming up somewhere on the other side of the house, and the ocean was starting to sparkle. She would sleep well today, but she would also keep her gun within reach. And that's the end of the story. So kind of almost like a character portrait as much as it is a story. Sort of an idea of a character that I've been wanting to write about for a while, and I might indeed write about her more, but since I haven't got an exact idea of what I want to write about, I'm not sure if that will happen right away or possibly later on, or possibly not at all. Sort of had fun with this, though. Sometimes it's nice to be able to write something that's very, very short like this, 1 episode or maybe 2-3 episodes, instead of, like the 10 episode ones, the 15 episode ones are really fun too. But sometimes it's fun to write something that's very, very short. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And thanks for listening. Words and music, copyright 2024, Brandon Starr, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.